Take a look up at the sky and outside. Why? Might as well. Might as well. Might as well. Might as well.
Hey guys, it's Trey, aka Flo here, and this is the Epiphany podcast.
Yeah, you're not even gonna introduce me, bro. Nah, it's alright. Nah, we'll keep it. I am Cullen.
No.
And yeah, as you said, this is the
Sorry, I'm a
Epiphany show.
cornball. Oh.
Anyways, hope you guys are having a good day.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, so I lost in ping pong. My mind's all over the place.
Yeah, I beat him in ping pong per usual though. He beat what? You beat me like the past 3 games?
Like 5.
And then I beat him like the past 10 games before that.
And then I beat him like 30 before that.
No. Anyways.
No competition.
A little
Ain't never hurt
competition.
nobody.
Yeah, my brother says we're addicts, but
We are.
and
that's okay, but we're not out there smoking crack.
all right, bro. You right.
For real.
Anyways, yeah. So back to our announcements. Back
Bro,
to
do
our
I laugh like a
announcements.
dad?
Bro. Can you let me
Okay.
Announcements. So I work at a place called Pulse, and on Tuesday nights, once a month, we do this thing called Revival Nights. It's really cool. We do worship. We do, our founder usually gives a word, baptisms, communion. So if you're free, November 15th at 7:00, come join us, not us, me, at Revival Nights. I'd love to see you there. Second, I mentioned a lot of times that I was going to do a text. We'd send out a text every time that we post, but instead of doing that, I'm actually going to do an Instagram group chat. So if you'd like to be in an exclusive The Epiphany Show Instagram group chat, hit me or Trey up and I'll get you in that. Lastly, what was the last thing I had? Break. You got
I don't have Instagram right now.
Yeah.
So I may not be present. Who knows in the future. But right now, text me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Text my number or something.
Dang, bro, what was the last announcement?
Did a guest? We have a guest coming on?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few, actually, a lot.
Yeah, so we will be having a guest next week for sure, and the week after that for sure, and then we'll go from there. So once again, that's another thing we've been talking about, which we got in the works for real this time. So yeah, that'll be awesome. So yeah, let's just get into today's. We don't have a set topic once again, but we do have some questions that we're going to go through.
Yeah.
And just some stuff, really multiple topics that we just plan to talk on and kind of go through that. So,
Just freestyle, chop it up.
yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
You have any of them that you wanted to start with?
I think they're all good. Shoot.
Yeah, just since it was a bit colder today, let's start with the first one. Just how the weather affects mental health.
Yeah, I think we can both speak to this.
Yeah.
And we may have touched on it before. I don't know. But at least I know we've spoken about it for sure. Yeah, I would say normally, as I look back, I think God's given me revelation that I've gotten depressed in many seasons of life. But I think winter was always one where I just kind of, it's cloudy, it's gloomy, it's cold, and you're just inside more, you have more time to think, and you're not, but as of last year, I had an awesome winter, I had an awesome fall, and I was very excited for this fall and this winter. Then as I was, as I spoke on in the last podcast, I was really struggling there it felt like a really long time. It might have only been like 2 months. I don't know, just with girls and purity. And I started feeling like really dark again and feeling like fall and winter was going to be really dark. I felt like relapse may have been around the corner. But ever since I've come out about that, life has been very bright. It was like 75 degrees like 2 days ago. And just regardless, the trees are colorful, chai lattes, pumpkin, good. Winter peppermints coming out. I'm picturing like fire and like PJs and like sit back and have a functional winter. Feel me? So I'm excited.
You're really a white girl.
Bro, you know, like it's just a light skin thing.
Nah, yeah, but I can agree with that too. I remember we did talk about it a little bit on the past podcast, but for me, my season was actually always summer.
Yeah.
But I also definitely did struggle a bit with seasonal depression, and like you said, it's really whenever sometimes, you know, it just kind of hits, and it's like, you know, not prepared for that. But yeah, I would say, especially in Minnesota, it's just so cold, and like people are really staying inside, and like it's really gloomy. Like it's a dark time. Like the days are shorter. There's less sunlight. It's just so many factors that play into it that, you know, it 100% makes sense. One, and sorry, there's some clanging going on upstairs. But anyway, yeah. So if you struggle with that, I would actually love to give you a good tip. Vitamin D is actually, it's the vitamin that we get from the sun.
Minnesotans are very low in I myself am in iron.
If you struggle with seasonal especially, I would challenge you and just, you know, advise you to get some vitamin D and try to take that a little more in the winter. It's helped me a bit, I would say. Not super noticeably, but like noticeably, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like an antidepressant, but it's kind of just like, oh, I feel a little bit better, I guess is what I would say. So yeah, that's kind of the extent for me, how it's been. And I know, like, think about like Seattle, like
it's constantly raining.
Is it Seattle or Oregon? One of them has the highest suicide rates, and it's like always gloomy. So like the weather 100% affects.
Oh no, that's Alaska.
Health. Alaska
has the highest.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But Seattle and Washington, or Seattle and Oregon are both very gloomy as well, depending if you're near the coast or not. But
I guess that makes sense in Alaska because it's literally dark for like
months.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4 months straight.
I remember studying that. Yeah, I think I wrote a report actually.
Yeah, that would be tough. I actually was supposed to go to Alaska a few years ago, and I think it was during the when it's light.
Yep.
But I didn't end up going on that trip.
It's weird. It'll be like sunny. I don't know. I might be tweaking, but I think it gets sunny at like 5 a.m. Something weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want to, we just wanted to highlight that and maybe just encourage you if you struggle with that. Like, you're not alone, for one, and, you know, reach out if you want to reach out to one of us or even to your friends. There's nothing wrong with that. We'd love to talk. Obviously, Trey's not on social media, but you can, if you have his number, reach out to him.
And we can maybe post a link, or not a link, like a 1-800 number. Yeah. I don't know if that's corny or not, but hey, it's someone you could hit up. I wanted to relate to you with the summer thing, though. That's when I've always been in treatment.
Yeah.
So, for me, I would say summer has proven to be bad also.
Yep.
For sure.
Do you think, how do I want to word this? Do you think the cold has more of an effect on it, or just like the darkness and the like less light and all those kinds of
darkness
things?
For sure. Yeah, just it being dark in the morning and gloomy. But there's also beautiful winter days where like the sun melts, or the sun melts the ice or snow. So there's days like that too. Yeah. But I've created memories there, so now that's what I look to. It's like the sunny days in winter. Yeah, you know. And even if there's a gloomy day, like, I'll probably be working. So, yeah.
You're the type of guy where it hits like 40 degrees in the winter, you're wearing shorts?
Yeah, for sure. Short sleeves at least. Yeah. Driving with the windows down, my eyes are crying because I got bad allergies.
Always drives with the windows down, bro. It was like what? It was like 50 degrees the other day, like super cold. I'm like, bro, roll up the windows, bro.
Bro,
it's not summer
it's
anymore.
A vibe, like, geez.
This dude be waving his hand out the window. He thinks he's in a movie at all moments.
Bro, it's just a thing, you know. It's a lifestyle.
Anyway, let's move on. Like, talk about cross addiction the way you just.
Yeah, cross addiction. I would say it's definitely a real thing. Like we were just talking about with the ping pong. I think I was already a nicotine addict, but like nicotine definitely picked up more heavy when I was in treatment. Secondly, energy drinks. I used to hate energy drinks, and then when I got to treatment, picked it up 2 to 3 a day. Now I'm slowed down. I don't drink that many, but even when I was at the factory, I was drinking like 3 a day, bro. Like really not that, it's not healthy. But I do love caffeine now. So I would say that's definitely a cross addiction. Music.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think, so I hear what you're talking about, but do you think for you, it's actually more just substituting?
That's what cross addiction is.
Really?
Yeah. Cross addiction is like, you were addicted to this, then you find something, but it could be a healthier.
I thought it was like you're addicted to this, but you also do this with it. So like every time
it's finding something else.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean by that. I mean, yeah, for me, I went through a nicotine phase. I actually just quit recently. I remember because we went to the same treatment. They said, what did they say? It was like when I walked in, they were like, do you smoke cigarettes? I was like, no. I was like, well, you're probably going to start. I was like, well, that's a good way to start off treatment. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a huge one, especially in the addiction community. Just like, and it's because I feel like it's not a high by any means. You know, it's a buzz, but I mean, obviously that goes away, I feel like, for some people, but it's just like, it still gives you that, you know, like sense of relief, you know, it's just like kind of calms you down. So I can understand that one for sure. I think, honestly, for a lot of addicts, sex.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even name that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that was a huge one for me. It was just like finding pleasure somewhere else. You know what I mean? Who was it? John. He's the owner of the addiction. He always said that. What did he say? That girls were the number one reason people relapse or something like that. Yeah. And I mean, it's true. Like that part of it. I think honestly, what it is just pleasure. Human beings are just, especially human beings in their flesh, living in their flesh, like all you really want is pleasure. You know what I mean? It's just like something to take off the edge, and that always goes away, which I mean, I guess this will kind of tie into just everything, but like it really shows that there really is no true satisfaction besides Jesus. I just listened to a John Piper sermon on happiness, and he said that growing up as a Christian and even just being a young pastor, he thought it was bad that he wanted to be happy. Yeah. But he says that we actually don't want to be happy enough. And that's why we substitute God's joy for the world's. And he said if you really wanted to be happy enough, you would seek after God's joy, because that is the utmost joy. And I thought about that, and I'd heard that before, probably like a year ago, but like I just find it to be true, really. And I think I need to spend more time meditating on it. But we all want to be happy. That's why even people who want to kill themselves, that's why they do it. They're not happy, but they think that they'll find peace and or less pain by killing themselves, really. And so, to hear him speak on that, I was like, dang, that's real. So I mean, we were actually talking about this a little bit in my internship. It's like, you know, the question was like, what is the will of God? You know, what does God want you to do? And it's like, really, it's not about what God wants you to do. He wants you to glorify, like we kind of talked about this a little bit last podcast. He wants you to glorify him in whatever you are doing. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you can glorify him, and like he wants you to, basically what I'm trying to say is he wants you to be happy where you're at, but also able to glorify him. You know, he doesn't want you to just have a job that you don't love. Like, I mean, in terms of career, he wants you to be able to be happy and joyful in what you're doing and also glorify him and make much of his name. You know what I mean? And two things to that, Paul speaks on, in any, like I have known very little and I've known having very much. Yep. So he speaks on that. And then secondly, he also, John Piper spoke on how college students would always come up to him and be like, what is the will of God for my life? Yeah. And he knew what they were talking about, like job, finances. And he was like, I can't remember where in the scripture, but it, be pure. Yep. For this is the will of God for your life. I have it in my notebook right over there. But I don't know. I know the verse you're talking about. So yeah, it's like, it's kind of simple and like, but it's not really that simple. So be pure. That's the will. And then everything else will be added to you. Yeah, that's such a beautiful verse. I think it's so simple, but it's so true. Like God just wants you to love him. He just wants you to pursue him and, you know, be the best you can be. Like he doesn't want you to like, that's another thing. I saw this thing, like, what was it? Christians, what was it? It was basically, I would rather get to the end and realize that I was wrong than get to the end and go to hell. You know what I mean? So like if you're wrong, at the end of the day, Christians live a life that's just like it's safe. It's like you said, pure and all that kind of stuff. Like I know it's not always the easiest life, but at the end of the day, God is protecting us, and that's what He wants for us. He wants for us to be not to like what was the one? Cain and Abel. Like that was the reason He didn't want people to murder, because He realized that, you know, people get competitive and things become bigger than they have to be, and then, you know, then someone loses their life. Like stuff like that, you know, God wants us to be safe, honestly.
To that, I would say, now, if you're a Christian just trying not to go to hell, are you walking by faith or religion? There's a difference there.
For sure. Definitely. I think that's honestly something I used to fall into.
And I think I fall into that all the time.
Yeah.
I do. Not necessarily like that's the only reason, but just like constantly living with a sense of condemnation. And then it turns into legalism of like, well, if I live this way, then I will, and that's true. But like, are you doing it because like, walk with fear and trembling, or walk out your faith with fear and trembling, but not like as a, God's going to strike me down just because I did this. Yep. No, like a reverence of like respect of like, like you're the creator. Like I should be worshiping you.
Yeah. And I think, weirdly enough, for me, I kind of lost that because, you know, I talked about that experience where essentially it felt like God showed me hell when I was off a whole bunch of psychedelics. I feel like since then, I haven't been scared of it. You know what I mean? Just, it's almost like I know. Like, I know you struggle with it a little more, but I know that I'm going to heaven. I'm very sure in my salvation, I would say. So for me, like, it was almost like a wake up call. Like, I'm never going to go there. And I don't want to say that was hell, but I think He showed me some of the realities of it. I mean, maybe even a glimpse of it in a sense. And it's just like, I know that I'm never going to be there again. So yeah, for me, I've definitely kind of got away from that, just the whole scared of hell thing, because we don't have to be scared of hell. You know what I mean? He promises that we will go to heaven, and I believe that promise. So I don't know. I know that's easier said for some people than others, but let's move on to another one.
Let's do it.
Kind of leads into being fully dependent on God. How would you say you are in that area? I know nobody's perfect, but just honestly,
I would say I'm growing in it. Just little things like with finances, not having a job for a minute, being backed up on rent, all sorts of things that I had to trust. I had to trust that God was going to provide a job. And He provided a job. And there was someone who didn't even know I was struggling that reached out and paid 1 month of my rent. And that was just kind of like awesome. Like God was watching out for me. So I'm learning to walk in trust with that. I'm learning to walk in trust with, my music, my will, whatever it turns out to be. I just want to find joy in it, just like we were talking about it. That God is going to provide a wife. Or even if He doesn't, He'll give me joy. Like sure. Really, not promise that, but like Paul does talk about, if you are burning, you know, with or passion, then it is better for you to get married. So I would say I'm definitely burning with passion and I want to get married. But yeah, I mean, I would say there's days where I'm more faithful in that and days that I'm lesser.
Yeah, for sure. I think you touched on a big part of it. It's trust.
Yeah.
I think being fully dependent on God is just really trusting that what He has is best for us. Yeah. And for me, that's the hardest part of it. And I think for a lot of humans is, you know, because we're such autonomous creatures that we think we know what's best for us, and we don't. Like, I think about my life before I was really pursuing Christ, and it's like, dang, I really did think I knew what was best for me, and I 100% didn't. And like, even I remember even my parents would talk about that as like, they were like, look how far you've gotten yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, they didn't say that in a mean way, but like, realize, you keep getting yourself in this cycle. You don't have the answers. And it's like, it was kind of refreshing to hear that, because it was like, the thing is, you don't need to have the answers. I think that's the big misconception, is people think that they need to have the answers. You don't.
Or they deserve.
Yeah. Or that too. And I think that comes with entitlement. But God made it so he had all of the answers, because he knew he has the perfect will. You know what I mean? Everything that he set out for us is perfect. And it's like, but we're like, no, I know what I want to do. You know, I want to do this. I want to do that. But we get it wrong. And you may get it right like once or twice, or, you know, maybe a few times, but
only because he allowed.
Exactly.
Even.
And I think that can even get to some people's heads. So it's like, even in that, you still could sin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you will.
Yeah. So it's like, God knows what's best, and being fully dependent on him, for me, it's definitely something I've struggled in. But over these past few weeks, like you, I've just really been just growing in, and just realizing that, he does know best.
Yeah, like I can even say where I'm trusting right now. Like I'm working a part-time seasonal position, which means pretty much they don't have to hire me as full part-time. Mm-hmm. Like I could be done working at Apple in January 27th. And there was a part of fear that came with that now. Even like some hours I'll think about it. I'm like, dang, bro, like I love it so much, but like I really could not work there. And then I'm like, if God wants you to work there, you'll work there. Mm-hmm. If not, there's something else. Yeah. So like I'm walking in trust of like not walking in fear. Like for the time being, this is where he has me. Mm-hmm. This is the door I'm in. If he wants to open another, or if he wants to keep me where I am, he'll do that. And it's definitely a possibility. Most people in the past 4 years, they said, are hired on as part-time seasonal. And then if they want to stay there, if you're proven that you should stay there, they'll hire you. But it's not promised. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of relates to something my therapist actually told me today is, you know, God has 3 answers to prayer. Have you heard that before? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, but not yet. Yeah. And no, but I have something better.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes it really is yes, but wait, or no, I have something better. And I think that's where he grows us, in those moments where you're maybe praying for something, or like in finances, or, you know, where something is tight. God's really just showing us and testing us in our dependence in him.
Yeah.
And it's honestly a beautiful thing, because for me, I like I was saying, I'm just kind of coming out of I don't even know if I'm coming out of it, but maybe still in it, just a period of being tested for sure by God. And looking back on just the things I've gone through these past few weeks, it's like, thank you. You know what I mean? Thank you so much just for giving me the opportunities, and for letting me like walk it out. Cause I feel like I was getting very comfortable, and I was just like, oh, I'm good. I'm never going to struggle again. And then I did. And he showed me, all right, let's do this together. And I was saying this on the last podcast as well. I'm so thankful that I stuck with him. And I honestly, I'm just realizing now that's the most I've learned to depend on God ever. And I had my down days, I had my bad days, but it was like, I really did learn a lot just in this past little season. So yeah, I guess I'm even realizing that for myself right now, but it's beautiful. Well, just how he works through things.
Walk it out, walk it out, walk it out, walk it out.
Walk it out.
Yeah, it's real.
God disciplines whom he loves. Mm-hmm. Should we talk about that?
Yeah.
I was actually talking to a friend about this today. I'm thankful for that. Mm-hmm. In the moment, it sucked. It was the worst. But I was the type of person, I always got caught. Like, we've even talked about this a little bit, but it was just like, in the most random ways too. Like, I remember one of the first times I got not first times, but after one of the first times I got caught for smoking, I remember I walked into the door one day. I was high, obviously. I can't remember. I remember I was in the car. I tried to put the lighter in my pocket, but it must not have like been 100% in the pocket.
Yeah.
And I walk in the house and first thing I do is drop the lighter.
Yeah.
And it's just like little random stuff like that where I look back on it. I was like, God was disciplinating me.
Yeah. He didn't allow me to be slick.
He was pursuing me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he really didn't like, I wouldn't even say I went too far into my addiction. Like I had moments of it for sure, but every time it was like, I'm too far gone. He always threw a huge red flag up or put me in treatment or whatever, however he stopped me. And that's just like, I think such a beautiful thing. Discipline is such a beautiful thing at the end of the day. And I think as you mature as a Christian, you realize that. Yeah. Because I never would have realized that in the past. And I wouldn't say hate my parents, but I just had a lot of beef with my parents because they would always catch me. I'm like, come on, like, why are you always catching me? And I know now it's because they prayed for it. Yeah. And they prayed for me and God was pursuing me. So it's like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah. No, yeah. My mom and stepdad have 6 cents, bro, for real. Like, would just come downstairs, wake up at 3 a.m. because they just woke up and they just had a feeling, just things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, always got caught with stupid stuff. But there's a verse, and I'm totally botching it, but it talks about, for God disciplines whom he loves, something, and he was trained by it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's something like that. Yes. But anyways, I found it to be very true. And I even found it true in my addiction. That's what's so weird about like the addiction that I had is like I was reading my Bible and like doing perks at the same time and like like preaching drunk on my Snapchat stories. Like really though, like that was me, bro. And then like so many times I flushed things because I was like, I'm done. Flush Coke. Like, I recorded a video for like TikTok. It's so goofy, bro. I probably still have it. I'll show you after the podcast. But like, it was me. Like, okay, super drunk. Had this whole bottle of New Amsterdam and thought it would be a good idea because I recognized I was falling into this pattern. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm never drinking again. I'm gonna smash this bottle. So I went gonna film a TikTok. Yeah. Took this chair outside, like carrying everything while I'm drunk. Bro. I'm outside. It's middle of January, bro. Like I walk out. I have the bottle in one hand. I have the chair, and I think I brought a broom and a dustpan out because I was gonna smash on the street. And I thought about this. Like I don't want anyone to cut themselves or any tires to pop. And bro, I'm walking out. Slip on the ice. Not even joking, crack my knee. And I'm like, didn't drop the bottle, kept the bottle. Dropped everything out. Yeah, for real, bro. It literally hurt my knee. Like it hurt for like a month after. Like actually hurt it. And I walk out of the middle of the street, set my phone up on the curb, set the chair down. And I'm like, my name's Craig. And I'm an alcoholic. But I am turning it down for Christ. And I smash it, bro. I'm not even lying, bro. And I smash it, sweep it up, literally just glass at like 3 a.m. Cling, 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 literally, bro. And that was that. Funny, but I had conviction, bro. And I remember recording a YouTube video. This is after my car crash. And I don't think I have this video anymore, but I was like crying reading this verse of God disciplines whom he loves. Mm-hmm. I'd never heard that before. Yeah. Never. And I remember I was convicted and like repentant at that time. But again, I was like literally drunk during this video. And I posted on YouTube and I was like crying and I was like reading this verse and I was like, you know, I see God in this and I see God in my life. And like, I should have died in the car crash. And I just saw the goodness of God in that moment. And obviously didn't learn my lesson because a couple months later I overdosed on the Percocet. But like, his grace is just, it abounds. It does. Because like, I really just should not be here. And I forget that often, but at the same time, I'm reminded all the time. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't feel real. Yeah. It like really doesn't feel real. And I was just talking to my dad. I was like, have you dealt with like the trauma that I brought? And he was like, yeah, I've dealt with it. And I was like, do you think I've dealt with it? Mm-hmm. And he was like, why do you think you've dealt with it? And I was like, honestly, I don't know because like I wasn't awake during my car crash. All I saw was the aftermath. Mm-hmm. Wasn't awake during my coma. All I saw was the aftermath. Sometimes I wish like I was injured, But even then, I may not have learned my lesson. Regardless, God has reproved me. But like, he was like seeing where you were and like the way you act now and the way you carry yourself and the things you're doing. I would say you've learned your lesson. You've all your songs talk about it. I would say you processed it. And I was like, you're right. But at the same time, it's like, I really just, all I see is the aftermath. And maybe that's enough. Some people are really, I would say, some people lose a leg from heroin and still don't learn the lesson. So like, you're not promised that. But sometimes I think, I'm like, dang, dude, like what? I really am here. And it just doesn't, it feels like a movie. Like really. So sorry, that was a ramble.
No, you're good. Kind of relates to a TikTok I saw. I was like, it's crazy to think that like really living is the most like psychedelic experience there is. Like we're literally just controlling a whole body with our mind and like
move your right finger, move your middle finger.
Walking through like a world of floating rock. Like I know God created it all, but like it really is just like the most surreal experience, and it is real. That's like, so I get that too. Also, I just think like, dang, I really am alive. I actually do say that a lot. And people are always just like, what? But like, I really am alive right now. It's crazy. But yeah, I think I'm happy just the way that God pursues his children. You know what I mean? I think about people who, like even some of my friends in addiction, like they really just weren't convicted by any of it. But I always had conviction. Like that's the thing. And I'm just like, I think part of it was just because I went to a Christian school, and I really do believe I accepted Jesus into my heart at like 5 years old. So I just think I always had the Holy Spirit in me.
You just ignored it. You mourned
for a really long time. But there was never a moment where I was like, God isn't real. You know what I mean? There was always a moment where I knew at the back of my head, and it's just like, it kind of scared me a little bit. And even sometimes I remember I try to get into like the spirituality and all that kind of stuff, like
astral projection.
And like all that kind of stuff, bro. And it just wasn't the same, bro. And I knew like, this isn't right. Like I know God is real. So like, it just goes to show that like, he really does pursue his children. And like, I mean, I don't want to get too into like theology, but like, I mean, it really just shows like election for me is like,
chosen.
I'm chosen. I was chosen since the very beginning.
Not because of what you've done.
And
that's what's crazy to me, dude. It's like really.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a hard thing to accept sometimes, but it really is a beautiful thing.
Two things. First, you say that you always knew that God was real. I would say that I did too, but like, maybe we've spoken on this. Was there a moment where like it just actually became real? Like you were on autopilot. Yeah, God's real. Yeah, God's real. And then all of a sudden you woke up. Like they call it a spiritual awakening. Because I can speak to that and I want to know.
Yeah, I think we did talk about it in the first podcast.
Yeah, we might have.
But,
it is surreal.
I'll just briefly mention what I was talking about that earlier when I was on all those psychedelics, and he showed me hell. And I feel like that was, and that's the thing for me. Another part of my testimony is I've struggled actually a lot with spiritual warfare, and like, I've actually like seen demons before and all that kind of stuff. So like that's also part of it, because I've seen that side of it, that I knew that there had to be a God. Like, and sure, people can like say, oh, you didn't, but I know in the bottom of my heart that I like the stuff that I've seen. So it's like, for me to see that was also just like kind of a spiritual awakening for me to really realize that, okay, God is real. Cause if that's real, he has to be real. For me, I mean, that's kind of how my mind.
The evil, whatever. Were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Second, I wanted to say, are you grateful for the reprovement? If so, explain. And then if not, or are there times that you haven't been?
You mean by reprovement? I don't know what that means.
Like the discipline.
Okay. Yeah. 100% now. Yes, like, and I think in my parents' relationship, it's grown us so much. I think that's a big part of it, because I just went through that oh, I hate this. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, I never hated them, but it's just like, I hate this situation that we're always in.
Yeah.
And I think I grew our relationship so much, and we just had to go through that hard stuff, you know? But I mean, like I said, yeah, when I was in it, I hated it. I think, like, for me, one of God's disciplines for me was when my friend Devin died. And I mean, I still struggle with that. We just actually passed his 1 year after he died, and it was just like a moment of just like God, why him? Like, I know it wasn't just for me to see, but like, why'd you have to take him away? You know what I mean? And even now it still makes me sad, but it's just like that's a big one for me, where I really do truly believe that he was a Christian and in a better place, that he is in a better place, but like, it just still hurts. And it's just like, yeah. So that's one of the disciplines where it was like, I still struggle with that for sure.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say, I don't know if I can really say this because I don't know. I mean, maybe it depends on the person, but like, I think I've struggled with survivor's remorse. But I've read some things on that, and it's more like PTSD, or like if you're in combat, or if you're like in a car crash and someone dies next to you and someone survives. I think I just started realizing it. I don't think you ever met him, but there was a guy named Chris at Redemption House who I was close to, and then he went out and died like a week or two later from a heroin overdose. And I remember going to his funeral, and his parents had showed his text messages on the screen for like 15 minutes and all the Bible verses he was sending. And he just looked just like me, the way he was sending them, like the passion he had, and just even speaking to him, we were just alike in some ways. And God took him. And I just remember at that moment, I was like, yeah, some people don't make it.
Yeah.
And, I only knew the guy for 2 weeks, if even that long. But like, we just would sit out by the fire for 5 hours and speak. And I think that's when it started, where I just recognized like, not everyone makes it out. And then in times of condemnation, I'd be like, why am I even here? I shouldn't even be here. Why'd you even keep me here? You kept me here to feel this, kept me here to be depressed, like all these little things. And there's ungratefulness there.
Yeah.
And now, like, sometimes when I'm in an awesome mood, I look back and I'm like, why in the frick was I thinking that way? Like, that's evil. But then there's still days where like, I sometimes am just like wallowing, like sad, and like, I don't know, I shouldn't even be here. Like, just stupid. It's stupid. But, so I am grateful for the discipline, but there are times where like, I have definitely thought like, dang, bro, I wish I would have just died,
Yeah, I get that too. Just like, I mean, I don't think it's either survivor's remorse either, but it's just like, sometimes I kind of wish like me over him.
Yeah.
But I try not to think about that too much. Yeah, sorry. I just got in my head for a second there. You want to move on to a different thing, or?
Yeah.
All right. You have a favorite book?
Yeah. I would say C.S. Lewis. I would say Miracles, although I have not finished it yet. And then second is Screw Tape Letters.
Are you going to say a book you haven't finished yet?
Well, there's probably like 90 pages left, but I'm going to say why. Because I was reading, I remember my mentor, Jason, put me on. He brought me an ESV Bible, study Bible, because that's when I was really showing him a change and like me coming to Christ, and like, yo, like, I can't believe I didn't see this before, like all this type of stuff. And he was like, we're going to get you a Bible. Got me an awesome study Bible. It's all messy now because I use it a lot. And then he got me C.S. Lewis, like a full volume of like 6 books in one. And I was reading Miracles, and I was just talking about miracles, whether they exist today, what did they look like, what did they look like in Bible times, explaining what a miracle is, all these things. And I remember going to my mentor, Jason, and I was like, why don't miracles happen today like they did in the old times? Like the Red Sea parting, or like the loaves, 500 or 5,000, feeding the 5,000, stuff like that, turning water into wine. And he was like, miracles do happen. And I don't remember the exact thing he said, but he was like, start praying for a miracle. Started praying for a miracle. maybe only once, maybe a couple times, don't remember. And then my car crash happened. Popped out without a scratch. Took me a second to realize it was a miracle. But looking back, I'm like, I was praying for a miracle. God gave me a miracle. It was in the midst of reading miracles. So that's why I say, even though I haven't finished it.
Well, your car crash was in like 2020, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. You still haven't finished the book.
And there's about 2 others in that volume I haven't read either. I think it's the problem of pain and like something. But dude, I start a lot of books and don't finish them.
I do hear that. Yeah, and I would also kind of echo him. Miracles 100% happened today.
You've read that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Miracles do happen today.
Yeah. Your parents probably have it.
Probably.
I would not be surprised. C.S. Lewis is, yeah.
My favorite book, on a little lighter note, is actually The Great Gatsby.
Okay, I've never read it. I've watched the movie though. Mm-hmm.
It's beautifully written. I think that's the biggest thing for me. One part of it, I just remember the state, because we read it for an English class back in sophomore year. I just remember the stage I was in life and just like reading it, and I really related to Gatsby because his whole thing was like he had this whole persona that he created. He constructed, and it's just like I was in a point in life where I really didn't know myself, and it was like I was really trying to create my person, and I don't know why that just really related to me, but I love that book. I love the movie. I for a good like 3 years after that, maybe even 4, I read it like every single year.
Really?
I mean, part of that was because I was in treatment and I loved to read it, but that one, and then I also read the autobiography of Malcolm X. Okay. That is a great book. Such a good book. And I think he's such a misunderstood man. Yeah. I won't get too into it right now, honestly, just because I can't really remember a lot of the specifics, but just the way his life, the progression of his life was a amazing part of it. And just like, he just was so misunderstood, especially at the end. I really do think he was a like he had good meaning for the things that he did. And I just think the media painted him in a bad light. But yeah, those are probably 2 of my favorite books for sure.
This might be a stupid question. Was he murdered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. A lot of conspiracies around that, but I think by the...
I don't like voices.
Yeah, because, I'll get into it a little bit. So he was, do you know what are they called? Basically the American Muslim. I don't know the official name for them, but... We were talking about that upstairs. Yeah, so he was a part of that. And then he went over to, they do the pilgrimage to Mecca. Where's Mecca again? I think Saudi Arabia. And he went over there and he realized, oh, this is real Islam. Yeah. Like the American Muslims like really are super against white people. Yeah. And like, there's all that kind of stuff added to it. But the real Islams, were out there and they're just loving and all that kind of stuff. So he really changed his life around and realized that, to love people. But before he was definitely very just aggressive in his approach towards social justice. But after, they ended up murdering him just because, like you said, people don't like voices. But if any of you get a chance to read that book, it's a really well written book, and he's a really interesting dude for sure. So cool. Let's keep going. These 2 kind of have to do with each other. Do you want to do living together, or less people are getting married, more people are living together before marriage? Are those related? Or do you want to do, is the church shrinking and are less people, young people, believers? The first one. Less people getting married? Yeah, I would say for sure, because marriages don't last. Mm-hmm. And I think it ties into living, because I think that I just heard a statistic during a sermon. It was like people who live together before they get married are like, I don't know, 40% more likely to get divorced, something like that, than people who wait. And then secondly, I just think there's a lot of bad examples. Mm-hmm. And so when you see your parents get divorced, you're probably at you have a higher chance of getting divorced yourself, just like your parents are addicts. For sure. You might be an addict. I can't go much deeper than that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think about it as just, I think about how many friends I had whose parents were divorced, and just like I know the statistic is like 50%, but I feel like it was almost more than
Might be
50%
higher.
of my friends, you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, like you said, just seeing that it doesn't last, just kind of creates like a complex in your head, you know, that, you know, why would I get married? And I think honestly, I don't want to get like too political and all that in this, but I think a big part of it is just like the feminist movement.
Okay.
And people are just like, women are just like, oh, we can do it ourselves. Or they're getting so independent. And not that women shouldn't be independent, but I think just in the way that they're doing it is just like very, demonic. Yeah, I maybe wouldn't use that word, but just they're not marrying as much anymore. And I think that's really having an effect on. And another part of that is even just the whole LGBT movement, I think, is also effect on that. And I think it's just all of the new landscape of culture right now is just everything is pushing for like, you know, you can find love anywhere right now. So I think people, it's so much, like, it's almost like too much love to where they're like not settling. You know? I
was going to speak to that of like having many partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think like, I mean, another thing I even bring into there is just like hookup culture and like Tinder and all that kind of stuff is like, there's so many options and like people have been with like so many people, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's never enough.
Yeah.
And then you compound that with people who've just seen their parents get divorced. It's just like, well, why get married? You know what I mean? And I can't remember what the statistic was either, but there was one just on like, I think it was from 2019 to 2020, they saw like, I don't remember the exact number, but a lot more people started living together. And that was a huge just spike. I think
even during COVID.
Yeah. It was
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's just a whole other piece of it. It's just like, it's just becoming super normalized. A lot of things are becoming super normalized, I think. Yeah. And it's just like, just part of they're all parts of the reason why just marriage is just not a huge thing. But for me, like, I've always wanted to be married.
I was going to say, why do you think we want to get married?
Yeah.
So bad.
I was actually telling my therapist this today. I think it's because, shout out my parents, that they just modeled it so good for me.
Yeah.
Like I think that's honestly what it is. I just saw their relationship and the way that they love each other and how they're really best friends. And for me, it was just like, I've always wanted that since a young age. Yeah. And another piece of that, I think for me is just, you know, I was adopted. So I just have like a lot of attachment issues for that. So it's just like almost the security of it, I think just kind of goes along with my attachment and intimacy issues. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. What would you say?
I think I just really want a partner, like for real. Mm-hmm. But I'm also terrified because I don't want to hurt someone. Yeah. And I don't want to get divorced. I think I have there's a name for it in psychology. Dang. I hate blanking. I'm sorry. Catastrophizing. Mm-hmm. Catastrophizing? Yeah. Yes. Where you expect the worst.
Yep.
And I think I do that with my sobriety. Mm-hmm. I think I do that with my faith. I think I do that with relationships. I think I do that with everything. Mm-hmm. Something bad's going to happen. Why would I put myself in that position? Yeah. There's a fear there. Yep. It's like, why would I serve Christ and go to hell? Mm-hmm. Why would I get 5 years of sobriety under my belt and fall? Yeah. Why would I try and be pure and then slip? And why would I get married if I'm going to end up getting divorced or breaking her heart, or she breaks mine, or cheats on me, or I cheat on her? Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely something God's got to work with me through. I do not think I'm a man fit for a wife yet, but I know He knows my heart and He knows I really want that. So
yeah, this is a little related, but there's this book called The Meaning of Life by Viktor Frankl. Have you heard of it?
No.
He was a Jew in the Holocaust. Okay. I think he was in Auschwitz. I read it a long time ago, so I'm not going to go super into it. But basically his thing was, it's all about finding meaning in the moment. So like, because, like you said, you know, why would I get in a relationship if she's just going to break my heart? Mm-hmm. honestly, I think about my past relationship, and yeah, there was a lot of heartbreak in that, but it's like the moments that we had together, I wouldn't give up for anything. I would do it again, 100%. And it's just like, I think maybe just for you is just thinking about it that way. It's just like, how can I be satisfied just in the moments? And that's, I mean, obviously that isn't the meaning of, I don't think that's the meaning of life. I think the meaning of life is living for Christ, but I mean, I think that's helps psychologically speaking. I think that helps human beings a lot. But yeah, you should read that book if you get a chance. Yeah.
And we can actually answer those other ones because those spark my interest too. Are the church and then a younger generation. Yeah,
these two are kind of like that one related. But is the church shrinking and are less young people believers?
I don't know if the church is shrinking. I haven't read on that. Mm-hmm. I can't speak. Are younger people, are there less younger believers? Mm-hmm. I would say Satan is offering a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And, what's weird is I was just listening, and take this with a grain of salt, but I was just listening to this podcast and it was speaking on aliens. Now, I don't picture aliens as these greenhead things that they show in the movies. Do I believe that there are things that people see? For sure. Yeah. Do I think it's demonic? Yes, because the Bible speaks on principalities and things in high places, right? And but he said, wouldn't it be interesting if aliens didn't come like that, but they came in the form of technology? Yeah. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I'm not necessarily saying that that's like an alien or demon, whatever, but like the AI, how much we are connected to them, we're addicted to them. I think they could be ideas given by demons. And I think there is such a thing. Like, where do you think the Ouija board came from? Like, where do you think certain witchcraft came from? Why is astrology all of a sudden popular again? Nothing new under the sun. Guess what? The Bible speaks on reading signs and stars. And, he placed stars for direction and for seasons and all of these things. But like, we look to them for answers. He speaks on it. They were doing that back in those days. Yeah. Guess what? Sex was a thing back then too. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Guess what? Anger and violence and actually it talks about, there will be rumors of wars and nation will rise against nation. Nation in the Hebrew speaks to race against race. People against people. Guess what's happening now? Yeah. Nothing new under the sun. Everyone thinks that they're creating this new style. Baggy jeans are back. Guess what? They were cool in the 90s. All these dance moves that people are coming up with. There's videos on TikTok that I was seeing where they were showing it back in the 50s and 60s. Nothing new under the sun. So yes, I think our generation is completely lost. I think it's been lost since the beginning of the times. I don't think there's anything new. So I think there is a great falling away, but I also know that with that comes a great uprising. Yep. So, I mean, God's going to save who he saves and it's his will. Satan's just having a field day. That's all I'm saying. That goes to the astrology. We can get to that next.
But I mean, I know the American church is 100% shrinking.
Why do you say that?
Well, a lot of it was actually because of COVID. Yeah.
At least in person.
Well, just in general, people didn't have to go, and then they realized we don't even have to go, so they just didn't go again. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it definitely is, and I think Europe is already years ahead of us in just how far they've gone in that. But
yeah, that for sure. Yeah, I have heard about that.
So yeah, and I do think. I would say yes to the young people question as well, but I think there's also a lot of strong, really Christian young people. There's a really strong culture of it. And I think that's just what social media does. It really unites them a lot, but and that's not to say that I don't think that more young people will be saved. I do 100% think that, and I'm striving for that. But Yeah, I think it is, like you said, it's comes and goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less people will go, but that, like you said, it also gives room for a huge revival. Yeah. And I do believe that there is a historic level revival coming. And yeah, so
cool.
Yeah.
We don't have to get into astrology. I already touched on that actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should we end there then?
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that was good, and I hope you guys understood where we were coming from, and it was easy to track and follow. Mm-hmm. And yeah, tune in next week for our guest. We'll keep that on the DL for now. Thank you as he said, thank you for watching. You guys have a blessed day.
Take a look up at the sky and outside. Why? Might as well.